The Bhagavad Gita is a pointer, a doorway to the direct experience of the reality of what we are. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years as a book, but it's pointing to some very fundamental principles that was there since the beginning of the first awakened human being, to discover what it means to exist. And from that, to discover how to be in existence more fully, in a way that is aligned with what historically has been the higher truth for humanity, for those that have created the sacrifices and the noble souls and the great qualities. That has been the ideal or the measure of one's worth throughout history. Not those who carry the terrible powers that also came with the unique quality that we are in our essence. It is by itself both dark and light, both creative and destructive. It is the ruthlessness of existence combined with the refuge and the shelter. So the nature of this is really unique in the journey of consciousness, that it has embodied. And by embodying, something miraculous has happened that broke out of the bounds of the instinctive structure of the evolution, the physical evolution of matter, and became something that stood upright and that could learn, that could come out of the shroud of its programming, its conditioning, its survivals, and the necessities of the times that anyone was born, to discover something that hadn't been discovered before, or so it would seem, certainly for each individual soul who traverses the journey. So the Bhagavad Gita is one of the markers, one of the records that point to a alchemy, that point to a way of organizing our self-will, to organize our intention, our capacity for action, to help create an understanding of the nature of the possibility, the miracle of what we each are and carry, so that it can come and be our life, be that which we live. So in this way, it's a profoundly practical guidance. The grace is all around you. Everything that's arising is serving the unfolding and the maturation and the clarification of what it is you already are in truth. It is not something to fear. I know there's some people who you give them love and they get repulsed. You give them a shelter and they run because they haven't come to the place where they can separate themselves from their unmet parts. They live in a piece of the anguish, even though they long for the love. They long to know the grace. We human beings are paradoxes, walking, talking paradoxes. We fall in love with someone who we learn to hate. Or we meet someone we hate and we learn to love. That within our love is a hate, and within our hate is a love. These are the truths, actually, of the complexity of our design, and actually the complexity that has created the entire fabric of existence, of polarity. of this and that, of duality. So the principle is that we all carry that. We carry within us this endless seeming conflict, the resolution of which comes, we can recognize what is grace and what is not grace, what is evolving us and what is not, what is bringing us into a truer relationship with ourselves and existence and God, and what is not. The Bhagavad Gita speaks to this as a battlefield. It identifies figures that when you study the Mahabharata, you could understand each of them represent aspects of human beings. The noble soul who's become corrupt, the corrupt person who's become noble. They're ever reflected in the characters in the Bhagavad Gita. Reading the Bhagavad Gita will not, even understanding this, will not do it. But when we align with what it's pointing to, what it's a reflection of, what it's the treasure of, then it becomes our own path to traverse the territory of what separates us to that embrace of the grace that is always here. The teacher carries the grace. They know the grace, they are the grace, they have surrendered to the grace, they lived by the grace. They're a doorway for that grace, that principle, that current that's here to lift all her children into the fullness of what they are. Or the Father that wishes them to learn what it is they need to stand on their own and to own their own power and to become useful. It is the paradigm of parents and children also in the domains that exist in the subtle worlds. There's these expressions of brothers and sisters and uncles and cousins, but they all carry force from one collective family headed by these true authorities, these primal beings that first became aware that they were the father of all of it, or they were the mother that holds it. And all the aspects involved in that came out of them. The Bhagavad Gita points to that tradition, which for us Westerners, we have no real orientation to. It's about virtue or sin, or heaven or hell. It's in the fixed dualities of mind which keeps these in place, of right and wrong. But the mystery is beyond these things. So the Bhagavad Gita evokes the mystery. It allows us to find the doorway that takes us in to the mystery, and it allows to give us a frame for holding it as it reveals itself. Because there's aspects of this mystery you would never want to experience. There's aspects of this mystery that comes from the ancient evolution of humanity that are the most primal and demonic expressions of what human beings carry, as well as the most angelic and the most transcendent. Okay, let's continue.
This is now happening to me. When those linked with me study the Gita, they begin to build a direct connection to this universal archetypal force. It descends and empowers the quality of consciousness that they are. It is not dogma or a religion. It is, in fact, a living truth, a description of what happens for every evolving soul on his or her return journey. Studying the Gita, writing the Gita, and sharing your insights is one way that I can nurture each soul linked with me directly or indirectly without my having to be physically present. The very essence of what I am can come to you through this little book. Nothing else is required to grow that divine principle within you except sincerity and aspiration. If you have that, and if you have a modality like the Gita that truly works, then wherever you are, you will be nurtured on your own journey, your own unfolding. So in this way, the Bhagavad Gita is one of the great pillars of mankind's body of wisdom.
So I know that for the Western mind, for the skepticism that pervades the Western culture, the ability to trust or have faith that that is true or that is possible or that any one person could be a doorway to universal forces for others who are seeking that passage. It is one of the veils that have made this time such that God is being ignored. It is truth is being converted into a lie. That the capacity to know and to love and to open to the grace becomes a false promise rather than the one true promise. It's a sad condition, and there's nothing I can do with it. If you, being an expression of the same thing I am, make that your reality. It's not for me to evolve you. It's the process of your existence that will in itself evolve you until you come to the point where you no longer believe your skepticism, where you no longer believe your doubt, where you recognize that fear is not the truth, that it's not pointing to something true, that's originating from something of your past or the story of what you've been conditioned, that you could lose something. Yet the only thing that you can lose is the error of your separate self and all the doubt and suspicions and distrusts and the compensating structures that it carries. It is a hell or a Holocaust, but we live on top of to make a life that makes it palatable. Staying in our ignorance, denying those moments that would show us something of ourselves that we don't want to see, pretending or imagining it's some other people or the circumstances. We lose the ability to own our own journey outside of the paradigm of the conditioning of our ego that has lived us up to now. We have an ego, we have an identity, but we're not the ego. We are not that identity. We are not that fear. We are not that which can be shamed. We're not that which can be diminished. These are arising because we're connected to this morass of collective consciousness, either through people who we're directly related to or even in the environment of wherever we live, or right now, in the collective consciousness, where the media is exaggerating all these things out of proportion. But amidst this is a choice. When we can find that within ourselves that can make a choice, we discover something true that can take a stand, that can say this, not that. Because this is true and that is not, and have that be irrevocable choice. The power of our ability to choose is how capable we are of staying with that which we chose. Because even if we chose that was an error, we will learn the lesson of the error, even if we're in doubt or regret or any of the other things. Discovering our power to create a new reality. This is one of the first steps of a human being coming to the wholeness of what they are. To bring things into existence out of their own creation, even if there wasn't agreement, even if the resources weren't apparent. To be able to step into something and create something new, something that wasn't there before, for you and perhaps for others. That's a power that carries within us as a human being that prepares us to take advantage of those awakenings. and those moments of unfolding of the grace, allowing us to choose resolutely that which has come.